Hare Krishna. A warm welcome to all of you for today's GITA live session. The topic for the day is my previous life. Today we're going to talk about the concept of soul accepting many bodies. Punarapi janma, punarapi marana. Krishna extensively in the Bhagavad Gita talks about this process of birth and death, how the soul moves from one body to another. And he also tells Arjuna that both you and me have taken many births. We're going to talk about this in detail in today's session. So let us start this discussion with prayers. Please join me in offering the prayers. Let's fold our hands, seek the blessings of Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Shri Krishna, so that we can have a very wonderful discussion with lot of takeaways. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tushe Namaha Namo Brahmane Devaya Go Brahmane Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we'll be talking about the three principles involved in this particular topic. Although there could be many points, but I have categorized them in three broad categories so that it's easier for us to assimilate the knowledge what I'm going to share with you today. The first point, the first aspect is our many lives. I repeat, our many lives. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells Arjuna that I spoke this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan. Vivaswan spoke to Manu. Manu spoke to Ikshvaku. And then Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam, this knowledge was coming down in parampara. Sakalena mahata, and in due course of time, yogo nashta parantapa, this knowledge got lost. The original intent the original purpose for which this knowledge was spoken seemed to have got lost. And the same knowledge Krishna spoke to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. So in that sense, Bhagavad Gita is not some knowledge which is 5,000 years old. So when Arjuna heard from Krishna that he spoke to sun god Vivaswan and Vivaswan spoke to Manu many millions of years earlier, this Arjuna got a doubt in his mind. And he asked this clarification from Krishna. Oh Krishna, you are saying that you spoke to sun god Vivaswan many millions of years ago, but you are my contemporary. How am I to understand that you spoke to sun god? It's like, let me give you a crude example. It's like someone comes and meets us or meets you and says that yesterday I had gone to Delhi, I'm coming from Delhi, and yesterday I had an opportunity to have a wonderful interaction with Mahatma Gandhi. I spoke to him. In fact, he invited me for a dinner. He asked me if I can come down to his place. I was so blessed to interact with Mahatma Gandhi. If a person comes and tells you this, immediately this question will come, how are you saying that you met Mahatma Gandhi? We know Mahatma Gandhi is a reality, he was a person, but he died long ago. So this question is but natural. So similar question came in the mind of Arjuna that you have spoken this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan, you are saying that, but I am seeing that you are my contemporary, we are in this battlefield standing next to each other. How am I to understand? So in reply to this question, Krishna says, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of enemy. It's a fact that all of us have taken many births. Just because we do not remember our previous life does not mean that we have not taken many births. Just like I don't remember what I ate the previous week. I don't remember what I ate the previous year. But that does not mean that since I don't remember, I have not eaten. It is, a lot of people ask me this question, I've encountered this question many times. Why don't we remember our previous births? If we could remember that we did such and such thing, or we did these karmas, good karmas and bad karmas, and because of which we got this particular birth and because of which we are enjoying or suffering, then it's easy for us to reconcile. Okay, it's my doing. We see good things happening to bad people and bad things happening to good people, but sometimes we're not able to see the correlation. It looks a contradiction. It's very bewildering. But if somehow an arrangement is there, good things are happening to bad people, we can see that yes, in this life, in the past, or in the previous lives, they have done some good things because of which today apparently they are in a comfortable situation. Although they are doing bad things now, we won't be bewildered. It's a wonderful arrangement by the Lord that we forget our previous life details. If we were to remember all the details of all our previous lives or few of our previous lives, our life will be a big mess. There are many movies made on the confusion which ensues when a person seems to have remembered his previous life. There are movies made, Bollywood movies made on this particular topic. And the whole movie is all about the confusion in the lives, just because a person vividly remembers some of the experiences of previous life, the relationships of the previous lives. So it's a Lord's arrangement that when we take birth, we forget. That's why Krishna is saying, many, many births, both you and I have passed, have taken. I can remember all of them. Lord is the Lord. He is omniscient, He is all-knowing. He knows the past, He knows the present, He knows the future. He remembers all the births, not only His births, in fact, the births of every one of us. He is omniscient, He is all-knowing. That's how He is God. And we are small, insignificant part and parcel of that God, and we forget our previous lives. But you cannot remember, O subduer of enemy. So, it's a fact that all of us have taken many, many lives, punarapi janma, punarapi marna, based on our karmas, based on our activities, based on our desires. We have been in this material world since time immemorial, accepting different bodies, 84 lakh species. And based on our desires, based on our inclinations, the material nature to facilitate fulfillment of those desires are giving different bodies, and the soul is transmigrating from one body to another. This is a reality. This is not just a philosophical concept. Sometimes you have some concepts just to explain some phenomena. This is not just a philosophical concept. This is a reality which the Lord is speaking about, which the great acharyas have spoken about, have realized, have experienced, and are sharing with us. In fact, reincarnation is today, even in the scientific world, a lot of research has happened, and there are many documented papers, many research papers which have documented the findings, and many books have been written on this subject. In fact, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a story of Bharat Maharaj. In fact, our country, India, is also called Bharat Varsha. And this word Bharat comes from the name of this king, Bharat Maharaj, who was the ruler of this planet Earth. He was the son of Rishabhdev. The description about Rishabhdev and his 100 sons is given in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In earlier times, people were following strictly the Varnashrama system, leading a regulated life, 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. After having ruled and been in the family life for a certain duration, a person would voluntarily retire from family life, give up his kingdom and take to Vanaprastha and eventually to sannyasa, so that they can completely focus on self-realization, God realization, and focus on remembering the Lord without any distraction or deviation. So Bharat Maharaj, who was a ruler, who was an emperor, who was a king, renounced his kingdom and went to the forest to meditate on the Supreme Lord. As I mentioned, with undivided attention. We also remember the Lord, but our attention keeps, going from one place to another. It's quite scattered. Let's accept the reality. In today's world, even while we are chanting, our attention it's difficult to hold the attention on the holy name, because it's scattered on so many things, on so many people, on so many circumstances. We keep thinking. So Bharat Maharaj went to the forest with very, very wonderful intention to meditate on the Lord wholeheartedly without any distraction or deviation. And he chose a wonderful place, a small hermitage. He started meditating. And one day while he was meditating, he saw a mother deer who was pregnant, was about to deliver a baby. She was grazing on the bank of a river, a stream. The stream had some currents. The water was flowing. And suddenly this mother deer heard the roar of a lion. It was a forest. And she heard the roar of a lion, and out of fear, she jumped to save her life. She jumped across the stream with the intention that she will jump across the stream, and she would, because maybe the lion was on this side of the stream, it will be difficult for the lion to cross that stream. So she jumped across the stream and wanted to save her life and to save the life of her child, the baby deer, who was about to be born. But because of that fear and because of that big leap and because of the thud, she collapsed and immediately died on the spot. But before she could land with the thud, the baby deer came out and fell in the stream. Before the mother landed and collapsed, the baby deer was already delivered and the baby deer fell in the stream. And because of the current was about to be carried away by the stream, when Bharat Maharaj, who was meditating, saw the whole thing, he immediately got up. He was seeing the whole thing, the mother leapt, the baby deer falling in the stream, being carried away by the stream, immediately felt compassion, because now there was no one to take care of the baby deer. The mother had collapsed and was dead. So he immediately got up and went into that river and caught hold of that baby deer and somehow rescued it and brought it back to the place where he was staying. So now there was no one to take care of the baby deer. The mother had died, and here was the king, Bharat Maharaj, who was there in the forest to meditate on the Lord, the only protector of this baby deer. So he started taking care of this deer and also would find time to do his meditation. But whenever he would do his meditation, he was conscious of the baby deer also. Once in a while he would open his eyes and just ensure that the deer is fine. If the deer was happily grazing some grass and was okay, he would again close his eyes and do his meditation. But as I said, his attention was also on the baby deer apart from the Lord. And days passed by. Gradually his attachment to the baby deer increased. It's nature of this world. When you spend time with someone, you invest some emotions, feelings, attachment develops. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangaste shupajayate. When you contemplate on the sense objects, attachment develops. So this Bharat Maharaj also developed attachment to the deer. It's but natural, because the deer also was just like people get attached to the pets. And here was a case where the deer is completely dependent on Bharat Maharaj for taking care of him, for feeding him and things like that. So one day it so happened that Bharat Maharaj was meditating, and it was late in the evening. The sun had set, and by that time the deer had grown up quite a bit, and would just wander into nearby forest. And the deer, although it might go or wander into that forest, would invariably return back home much before the sunset. And this was the time when the sun had set, it was getting darker, and Bharat Maharaj opened the eyes just to see where the deer is, and he found the deer had not returned. So he became a little anxious. He tried meditating, tried continuing his meditation, but he could not meditate. In his mind, he was full of anxiety, thinking of, is the deer safe? So he found that it's difficult for him to meditate. He got up and actually started searching for the deer. Called the name, but the deer was not in the sight. In fact, he became even more anxious and started worrying. And he thought now, he started all kinds of thoughts like, is the deer safe? Maybe who has lost the way in the forest? Maybe, in the forest there are all kinds of wild animals. What would have happened to the deer? So he started, in search of the baby deer, started going into the forest. And the search became very frantic. By that time the sun had set, it became pitch dark, and forest usually, we don't have, it's all dense forest, there is no clear path to tread. And he was very, very attached to the deer. Because of that intense attachment, in spite of being so dark, he kept moving in that forest and started calling for the deer, shouting, screaming, just to maybe the deer can hear him out and respond. But nothing was happening. There was no reciprocation. And he kept moving and started screaming, started calling out the deer, and all the more he became more and more anxious, more and more worried. And because it was pitch dark and dense forest, he, in search of the deer, unfortunately hit a rock, could not balance himself, fell, and his head stuck directly on a rock, big piece of rock. And because he hit the rock, the head hit the rock, it was a very hard impact, strong impact, the head in the rock. He collapsed, and spot he died. Bharat Maharaj died. In the Bhagavad Gita, Anta Narayana Smriti, Krishna talks about this. Anta Narayana Smriti. Anta means at the end. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajti ante kalevaram. Whatever our state of mind, our consciousnesses, our thoughts are at the point of depth. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Smaran means thinking. What we think of. Tyajti ante kalevaram. When we give up this body, kalevaram means this body, according to our thoughts, whatever our consciousness is, whatever our thoughts are at the point of death, that will determine what body the soul will get in the next life. I have heard many people saying, this is not fair. What if a person who has led a completely sinful life, not followed any regulation, what if tukke se somehow he remembers the Lord at the point of death? And you are saying that will determine his next life? Or the alternative could be, what if a person is chanting throughout his life, getting up in the morning, doing Mangalarti, chanting the names of the Lord, following all the principles, following Ekadashi Vrata, but somehow at the point of death he forgets to remember the Lord? What happens to him? I've heard this many, many times. In fact, devotees can also die in accidents. So what happens? So Anta Narayana Spirit, that's the law. That determines our next life. Just like when we join a college, finally we are judged by our exam scores, the final exam scores. Even when companies come for placement, they set a benchmark that students who are above 75% can come and face the interview. That 75% is basically what we have done, our final exams. Even in matric, in our 10th and 12th, we are judged by the exam results. And the exams are only for 3 hours into 10 subjects or 5 subjects, whatever it may be. Those 15 hours, what we do in those 15 hours actually gives a clear understanding of how well we have studied and done in our academics throughout the year, throughout our degree. So likewise, what is our consciousness, what is our thinking, what is preoccupying our mind at the point of death is actually a sum total of a cumulative effect of what we have thought throughout our life. It is not possible to be thinking of the Lord if whole life we have not cultivated remembrance of the Lord. Whole life we have been attached to different people, different circumstances, and not cultivated our attachment to the Lord. It is not possible that we will be able to remember the Lord. Our mind will be preoccupied with things which we are so attached to. So here Bharat Maharaj, because he was thinking of deer, with all good intentions he had gone to the forest. But unfortunately he got attached to that baby deer, and because he was preoccupied with the thoughts of deer at the point of death, next life he becomes a deer. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajti ante kalevaram tam tam eva konteya. That kind of body you will get in the next life. So Bharat Maharaj, because he was attached to a deer, he died thinking of a deer, he became a deer next life. But fortunately, as I mentioned earlier, generally we forget our previous life. But in this case, although the soul moved on and accepted a deer's body, somehow that Bharat Maharaj, that Atma, remembered the previous life, and how, because his mind was preoccupied thinking of deer, he has got this life. And this deer was quite unusual. Unlike other deers, would not mix with other deers in the forest, would be quite aloof and moving around and staying close to the hermitage where great sages would be staying. And the Bhagavatam says that in next life, this deer becomes Jada Bharat. He gets again a human birth, and because he realized that because of that mistake of his, because of having got attached to the deer, he got the body of a deer. This time he got a human birth and he was Jada Bharat. He was acting like, posing like a madman, a crazy man. When a man is accomplished, he is very intelligent, very brilliant, then there are a lot of people who surround him and befriend him, relatives, friends. He gets into many responsibilities. So he did not want to get entangled into material affairs. So he acted as if he's a madman. Just like madmen, people don't care for him. So long as he's not a nuisance, they don't bother him. So Jada Bharat, he acted like a madman so that people don't distract him from the purpose of he focusing and thinking and meditating on the Supreme Lord. So some important learnings for all of us. All of us have an understanding of what is success in life. We all have some understanding. That's how we have, some of us may have written goals, some of us may have unwritten goals, but each one of us have some goals. Something which we are pursuing, something which we are trying to achieve in our lives. And those goals are based on our definition, whether it could be written or unwritten definition of what is success in life. All of us want to be happy. All of us want to be successful. So generally, people have a definition, understanding that success means career growth, success means money, success means opulence, success means living in a luxurious apartment with nice good cars, all the amenities, all the facilities. That's success. Many of us have that, and that's how people pursue that career growth, chase money which will give them all these things. But according to the Lord, according to the scriptures, according to great exalted Rishi, Munis, self-realized souls, real success means if a person leads a life in such a way that Anta Narayana Smriti. That person, if he has led a life in a way where at the point of death, when he is leaving the body, he can wholeheartedly, without deviation, think of the Lord. If a person can leave that body, that is success. I am sure many of us may feel, no, how can you say that? As I said, money, education, it's a means to an end. It's not an end. I have mentioned this in our previous session. In today's world, that means, yes, while we have to live in this world, we require money, we require education, so that we can sustain our life. Roti, kapda, makan, we can earn that. But in today's world, good roti, good kapda, good makan, eating, sleeping, mating, defending has become the goal of life. And we have forgotten what's the purpose of human form of life. What is real success? Nate vidu swarth gatim hi Vishnu. They do not know that their real swarth, real self-interest is Vishnu. Nate vidu swarth gati hi Vishnu. So Srila Prabhupada says today's civilization, today's modern civilization is a little dangerous, it's risky. Why it is risky? It's risky because our predicament, our situation is something like a blind man leading few other blind men. Our leaders in the society who are actually enacting laws, administering, they themselves are unaware of what is real success. What is the goal of life? What's the purpose of life? And because of not having that clear understanding, the laws are being enacted and we are being governed. And Bhagavatam compares that situation to be andha yathandir upaniyamana. It's like a blind man leading another blind man. So it's a fact that we are a spirit soul, we are an Atma. Atma is eternal, this body is temporary. This life is a small phase in my eternal existence. I have taken many lives in the past. This life, the soul has taken, I've got this body. I might feel that I'm an Indian, I'm a man, but this is a designation of the body which is temporary, which is like a dress, and this Atma moves on and accepts another body, another body, another body. And when the Atma is completely purified of all the vasanas, all the lusty desires, Ichha, Dvesha, Samuttena, that Atma qualifies to go back to its original home, the kingdom of God, back home, back to Godhead. And that's the purpose of human form of life. Only in human form of life we can understand the whole picture. Who we are, who God is, what's our relationship with Him, why we are entangled, why we are suffering in this world, why we have to undergo repeated janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, why? We don't want old age, we don't want death, we don't want diseases, but much against our wish, we are forced to accept that. So only in human form of life we can understand Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now that you have got human form of life, try to inquire, try to understand. That's what our scriptures are emphatically saying. And lead a life with right kind of attachments, cultivating attachment to the Lord. No doubt when we are living in a family, we will have some attachment to our near and dear ones. But the center point, the focal point, the center of all attraction should be the Lord. Moment we make somebody else the center of our attraction, center of our love, we are headed for some problem or misery in life or pain in life. And if we lead a life focused on the Lord, being conscious of the Lord, cultivating that remembrance, there's a good possibility that we will remember the Lord at the point of death. And yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. And if we remember the Lord at the point of death, we go back to our original home, the kingdom of God. So the second point which I would like to share with all of you today, the first point was many lives. We all have taken many lives. This life is a small phase in our eternal existence. It should be very clear in our mind, and then we can save ourselves from undue attachments to so many people, so many things, and do justice to this human birth. The second thing which I would like to share, it's very important. Purpose, desire, actions. I repeat, purpose, desires, and actions. For anything in this world, anybody, a person has started a company, a person is producing a movie, or any initiative, any entrepreneur, any industrialist, any businessman, everyone has a purpose, and basis that purpose there are multiple desires, and to fulfill those desires we take different actions. I repeat, purpose is the overarching purpose. From that purpose comes various desires, and from that desires comes different actions. Like for example, Prabhupada talked about the 7 purposes of ISKCON. 7 purposes. To spread Krishna consciousness is a purpose of this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So it's a purpose, and then there are many desires. To open temples, to distribute books, to reach to more and more people with periodicals, with newsletters, with information about the Lord, gurukuls, ashram, farm communities. These are all desires. And to fulfill those desires, we act. Desires lead to action. Sangat sanjayate kama. According to our Sangha association, we develop desires, and basis that desire, suppose we associate with a drunkard, then quite possible that we'll get influenced by that association and we'll also get inspired to drink. Sangat sanjayate kama, and based on that desires, a person starts acting. So, it is very important for us to know the purpose of human form of life. And when Arjuna expressed to Krishna his dilemma in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, how can I fight against my own kinsmen, my own relatives, my own near and dear ones, Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Dronacharya, Karna, my near and dear ones. Even if I win the kingdom, it will be tainted with the blood of my own brothers, my own cousins. And finally, as we know, his mind was reeling, he was unable to stand, his hand was trembling, he was unable to stand any longer, and finally gives up his Gandiva bow and says, Krishna, I will not fight. And after hearing all that, Krishna did not tell Arjuna, okay, if you can't fight, if you don't want to fight, you go home, I'll fight for you and come back and tell you the results. In fact, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita and inspired Arjuna to do his duty. So, and Krishna completely, rather than addressing the problem, the circumstances, Krishna started giving an overall picture of who we actually are, about the Atma, and started telling about the overall purpose, how this Atma is captivated, how this Atma is entangled in the cycle of birth and death. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara vasamshi jirnani yatha vihaya. Just like we give up old garments and accept new garments, tatha jirnani vihaya. Likewise, the soul also accepts another body at the point of death. Dhiras tatra namhuyati. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamam paramam mama. So Krishna enlightens Arjuna. Just like Einstein says, you cannot solve the problem by being the same level of thinking you were when you created those problems. Arjuna was at one level of thinking. What Krishna actually did was, he did not change the circumstances, but he changed his thinking. You cannot solve the problems by being at the same level of thinking you were when you created those problems. So Krishna changed the level of thinking of Arjuna, and because of a different level of thinking, the same circumstances, the same situations became completely powerless to overwhelm Arjuna. That's why we say Arjuna, this Bhagavad Gita has answers to all the problems we encounter in our daily lives. Now you may wonder, does it have answer to financial problems? I am going relationship problems, I am not getting along with this person. Do you think that Bhagavad Gita have answers to that relationship problems? Yes, Bhagavad Gita has that. Because all these problems arise because of we are stuck at one level of thinking without understanding what's the purpose of life, what's the overall picture. That's why we unfortunately get attached to wrong things. I'll give you one crude example. If we don't know the overall purpose, how we can make a big mistake. Let's say a person is going from city A to city B. Let's be specific. Let's say a person is going from Mumbai to Pune. It's about 2 hours or 3 hours of journey in a train. And unfortunately, the person had to rush for some urgent work to Pune and could not book the ticket, and is going in an unreserved bogie, unreserved train, unreserved compartment. As we have seen, what people generally do, they try to go early to the platform before the train comes and somehow rush into the unreserved bogie and book the seat by either sitting there or putting a hanky from the window. So this person also jumped into the bogie and somehow was fortunate to get a seat. He got and sat on the seat. And in no time, the entire bogie became jam-packed. Jam-packed. Practically all the seats were occupied, all the passages in between were occupied, people were sitting, people were standing, jam-packed. And the train started moving from Mumbai to Pune. And this person who is sitting, somehow, now he has to go to a urinal. But he's finding it difficult. He knows that if he gets up, first he cannot reach the toilet easily. And somehow if he reaches the toilet also, and by the time he comes back, his seat would be gone. Because the bogie is jam-packed. So somehow he puts a hanky on that handkerchief on that seat where he's sitting, requests his neighbor, tell him that I'm just coming, just please take care. and he somehow goes to the urinal, manages somehow to sneak in, find a way and reach the urinal and come back in 5 minutes. And when this person comes back, he sees there's another big fat fellow, good strong stout body sitting on that seat and right on top of his handkerchief. So this person becomes very agitated, very wild, tells him, please get up, please get up. This is my seat. And this person, a rowdy fellow, he also retorts back, booking kiya hai kya? Have you reserved this bogie? मालूम नहीं है क्या? This is unreserved bogie. Ticket कहाँ है आपका? So this person also gives back. And there is some kind of argument between the two. Unfortunately, this person was quite strong, stout, almost double the size of this person. If we are in that predicament, broadly speaking, there are two options which a person can take. Broadly speaking, I'll not get into, although there are many other options, a lot of subjectivity is involved. Definitely there is no one right answer. But a person who is little intelligent, little sober, he will think, anyway, another half an hour, 45 minutes, Pune city is going to come. Why break my head with this person who is unreasonable? I am telling him so many times that I was sitting here right from Mumbai. Last 2 hours I have been traveling, sitting on the seat. Why can't he understand? Rather than breaking his head with this unreasonable person, he would say another half an hour. Because he knows this train journey, the purpose of this train journey is not to permanently settle down in that bogie in compartment comfortably. He knows that it is just a journey and it is temporary. Another half an hour is going to reach Pune city. Anyway, everyone has to get down. The whole bogie will get emptied. So knowing that overall purpose, knowing that he is traveling from Mumbai to Pune and he has to get down at Pune, his behavior with that knowledge, with that understanding of that purpose, knowing that it is journey, his behavior can be different. A sober man, an intelligent man will not fight. He will maybe think and reconcile that anyway it's half an hour. I'll reach Pune and anyway everyone has to get down. I am here and I am not getting into details. Somebody may say, no, we have to fight for the right, we have to fight for the truth. All that acceptable. But I am saying rather than picking up a quarrel with a person who seems to be unreasonable, who doesn't understand, and having the overall understanding that it's a journey and another half an hour I'm going to reach my destination, there's no point in fighting. So likewise, if we have the overall purpose of human form of life, overall understanding of what is real success, then the way we go about leading our lives, the way we go about dealing with the life's challenges would be different. The perspective with which we look at life will be different. And that's what happened to Arjuna. That's what Bhagavad Gita is intending to do for all those people who are trying to follow the instructions which are mentioned by the Lord to Arjuna, not only for Arjuna, but for the entire mankind. That change in perspective, that understanding of purpose of human form of life, if we do that, if our thinking is elevated to that level, automatically we'll save ourselves from so much of mess, so much of entanglement, so much of wrong attachments, so much of misery which we create in our own lives. So the second point is the understanding of purpose. From purpose comes desires. Because we have no clear understanding of purpose, we all have so many material desires. I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to enjoy in this way, I want to gratify my senses in this way. So many material desires. And Prabhupada says, so long as an Atma has a tinge of material, a pinch of material desire, the Atma will continue getting one body after another. Krishna is so kind to facilitate, because we have a free will, we have ability to desire. If we have a material desire, Krishna will keep us giving different bodies to facilitate fulfillment of those desires. If I have a desire to eat flesh, maybe human birth is not very apt. We may get a body of a carnivore where we can eat a lot of flesh, raw flesh. So long as we have, so from purpose comes desire. If we have the understanding of purpose, we'll have right desires. If the purpose of life is to be Krishna conscious, to always remember the Lord and not forget the Lord, we will cultivate one particular kind of desires, and those desires will drive a particular set of actions. So the second point which I wanted to share with all of you is understanding of purpose, desire and actions. Why are we acting? Why so many people are busy doing so many things, working 14 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours, so passionately working? They are acting to fulfill some desires, and those desires are stemming from purpose. And if the understanding of purpose is wrong, then the desires are wrong and the resultant actions are also wrong, and the person is doomed. So we'll go to some nice kirtans today we have planned, and after the kirtans we'll continue our discussion. We'll go to the third point. Request all of us to enthusiastically participate in the kirtans, and then we will join back and continue our discussion.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Quick recap of what we covered so far. The first, we talked about our many lives, how the soul is transmigrating from one body to another. Reincarnation is not just a myth, it's a fact, it's a reality. And the second, we talked about the understanding of purpose, desires and actions. If the purpose is clear, it will lead to right kind of desires and automatically will lead to the right kind of actions to fulfill those desires. And understanding of the purpose of human form of life is very important, and that is what Bhagavad Gita is trying to give us. The right understanding of the purpose of human birth, the right understanding of the purpose of this Atma which has come in this material world, what it should be doing, what kind of life we should be leading so that we can achieve that purpose and go back to our original home. The third point which I would like to share with you is some practical real life examples. Many times, although it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, but we are leading our lives in this world where unfortunately many tend to believe that these scriptures are all mythological stories. Kisne dekha hai? Some Rishi Muni wrote, who knows this Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord. As I mentioned, reincarnation is a fact. Many scientific research papers have also got published on this particular topic. So I'm going to share with you two real life examples, and we will end this discussion with some practical application of that understanding. There's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. It's a very famous book. If you also go on Amazon, you can just say Many Lives, Many Masters. This book is written by Dr. Brian Weiss, who is a very, very eminent doctor in the US. I forget the name of the hospital or the university in which he is a professor. And this book talks about a lady called Catherine. This lady was suffering from nightmares. In middle of night, she would suddenly get up because of those bad dreams, start screaming, start shouting, and start palpitating, perspiring, would not be able to sleep for days together. And she consulted Dr. Brian Weiss, who was a psychiatrist, and tried different things to help this lady Catherine. Tried some counseling sessions, tried to figure out what went wrong in the life of this lady, but nothing seemed to be working. Tried even some kind of medications to tranquilize, sleeping pills and all that, but things were not helping. As a last resort, this doctor, who was quite conversant with hypnosis, as many of us must have heard about, hypnosis is where a person is taken to a very relaxed state of mind. Our mind has alpha waves, beta waves, theta waves, the delta waves. Generally in our normal wakeful state, it's beta waves. Then we can have alpha waves where the number of cycles, the brain waves, reduces. And deep sleep is called the delta stage. So hypnosis is a way where we can induce that relaxed state of mind. It could be through some audios, it could be through some suggestions. And hypnotic regression is where a person is put into that relaxed state by some experienced people who knows how to hypnotize a person, who understand about hypnosis through some instructions, and a person is put into a relaxed state. And hypnotic regression means a person in that relaxed state, we can try to understand more about what is there in the subconscious mind. We have a conscious mind, we remember a lot of things, and a lot of things are stored in our subconscious mind. The patterns of behavior, many times we act impulsively. We know it is wrong, but those patterns of behavior are stored in our subconscious mind. So as a last resort, this Dr. Brian Weiss tried hypnotic regression, made this lady very relaxed and tried to make her remember some of the experience, who knows, of childhood, which are stored in the subconscious mind, which may give a clue to why she is having nightmares, why she is having all kinds of weird dreams. And while she was in the state of hypnosis on that particular day, in that particular session, she actually toppled over to the clear, vivid remembrance of her previous life and started recollecting vivid details of what had happened to her in the previous life, which had direct bearing, direct consequence of what she is going through in this life. She started, in this life everything was fine, there was good upbringing, no untoward incident, nobody had, she didn't have any very unfortunate experience, but still she was having all kinds of problems. So when she started remembering the previous life experiences which were stored in the subconscious mind, which came forth because of this hypnotic regression, the doctor could correlate why she is going through what she is going through in this life. And then this doctor, based on this experience of his with this lady, wrote this book called Many Lives, Many Masters. He's a doctor, MBBS, MD, very eminent doctor. He's written many books. He's a psychiatrist, Dr. Brian Weiss. Many Lives, Many Masters, where he documents this particular case, a real life case of a lady called Catherine, who vividly remembered the previous life experience, which had a direct bearing on what she was going through in this life. Likewise, we see child prodigies. I've heard of a girl who is just 5 years old, but she can play some 15-20 musical instruments, can sing different ragas, classical music, just a 5-year-old. And many eminent musicians, they are in awe and reverence for the wonderful, the talent what this girl has. How do we explain that somebody is born with a particular skill? Even we have seen, like many of you are attending the sessions, we generally invite people to attend the sessions to know about Gita, hear the Gita. Some people come, attend 1 or 2 sessions and they go away. But some people, they get so hooked, session after session, because they are carrying on from what they have left, from where they have left in the previous life. That's how we see, somebody picks up Krishna consciousness very eagerly, very fast, and some people are completely laid back. So this is one thing which I would like to share. And second thing is, this is from a book called 20 Suggestive Cases for Reincarnation. This book is written by Ian Stevenson, who has done extensive research. In fact, there is a BBC documentary made on this 20 suggestive cases of reincarnation. Ian Stevenson. And in this book, he talks about a particular case. This case is actually of an Indian boy. His name is called Titu Singh. This story was also there was a TV serial made on this particular story in BBC called 40 Minutes, and was also published in Reincarnation International journal. Reincarnation International. This particular case was published. This case, a peculiar case of a boy, Titu Singh, who right from his very childhood, when he was 3 years old, started talking about, just like when you go to a particular village or a relative's place, somehow you want to come back to your home. You miss your own home. So this boy, right from the very childhood, started talking about, I want to go back to my original home. I want to go back to my home. मुझे मेरे घर को लेके चले जाओ. And he is talking about his home and started describing that I want to go to Agra. And he started also mentioning that he started describing vividly about his previous life memories. He even remembered that his name in his previous life was Suresh Verma, and he was shot dead. And because of his deep, intense desire to go back and meet go back to his original home and meet his relatives, he was feeling very out of place in this particular house. So his elder brother, initially they thought, he's talking weird things, but later on they really wanted to check what he's talking about. Does it make any sense? So this elder brother went actually to Agra and did some prelim survey to find out, is there somebody called Suresh Verma who was living in this particular place, based on the description of the home, the place where he was living, which he had heard from Titu Singh, the brother. And he actually found that there was a shop called Suresh Audios, which was run by a person called Suresh Verma, who was killed, was shot dead. And when he found that, he was quite amazed, and he actually tried finding whom this shop belonged to. In fact, the Titu Singh also had mentioned that his wife's name was Uma and he had 2 children. So the brother went and found out whom the shop belonged to, who is running the shop, and actually it was an old lady by name Uma who was running that shop. So when this brother approached this lady and talked about his own brother Titu Singh, who was talking about weird things, talking about he was Suresh Verma, he was staying in Agra and all that. Imagine a small boy talking all these things. The wife also was quite perplexed. Uma was quite perplexed. But the brother requested, why don't you come to our place and just let us see whether he is able to recognize and all that. So a day was fixed and it was not told to that boy, and this lady by name Uma was invited to this place where they were staying. And as soon as she came, although this Titu Singh was playing with his friends, from a distance she could recognize his erstwhile wife, Uma. And she had come with her parents and all that thing, and they were invited to sit in the veranda. And Titu Singh also, imagine somebody has come whom you are related to, obviously you will go and sit next to that person. So this boy also went and sat next to this lady called Uma and started asking, how are you? For her it was quite weird, small boy asking. And then this boy reminded her, remember that we had gone to a fair and we had bought a sari and did something which only Uma knew. Nobody else, Uma and her husband Suresh, knew. And they had hid some gold in the house, they had kept the gold in some safe place, talked about all those things. So wife became even more alarmed. How can this boy know all these vivid details who only she knew and her husband knew? And then this boy asked, how are the children? They must have grown up, all those things. And then just to reconfirm, although it was become quite evident that this boy is remembering vividly and he was in his previous life Suresh Verma, this boy was actually taken to Agra, and from a distance when he was approaching the house he could recognize his children of his previous life. He could spot the changes which were made in the shop after he had left, because they had made some changes. Obviously, make changes, you add some things, you delete some things. So he could spot those changes and vividly tell these are the changes made in the shop. In fact, in this particular birth, as Titu Singh, on his head there was a birthmark. Generally we have birthmarks, some mole marks or something. There was a birthmark which resembles a wound which gets created in the temple, in the head, because a bullet. In fact, it was the same place where the bullet had hit. So now this particular case, this is documented. In fact, Ian Stevenson has listed 20 such cases, not just one case, 20 suggestive cases of reincarnation where he has done research based on the finding, based on the remembrance of the person. He has actually gone to that place, actually done a lot of findings, spoken to a lot of people, collaborated all the details which the person has shared, just to rule out somebody is just talking something to build a case. So what does this indicate? This indicates that this soul transmigrated, although by Lord's arrangement we may not remember our previous life, but it is a fact that we have taken many lives, and so long as the soul is having material desires, we will continue to take many lives in this material world. So there are two important applications of this understanding. As I mentioned, it is not just a myth, it is not just a concept, it is not just a philosophical point, it's a reality. So first understanding is, just like in a drama, we all take up some roles. Somebody is dressed like a king, somebody is dressed like a queen, the drama goes on. But deep within, when the drama is on, the king actually knows that he is not the king. When the curtains are put after the drama gets over, he has to remove the dress and he does not feel bad that people don't respect him like a king. In the drama, everyone was respecting like a king. Your Majesty, and everyone was saluting him, and wherever he goes, he has ministers and people accompanying him. He was given a lot of honor, respect. He was sitting on a throne. Moment the curtains are closed, he is no longer a king, and he also knows that he is not a king. Because he is not treated like a king, he doesn't feel bad. He understands who he really is. Unfortunately, in today's world, we get attached to our positions, to the designations. We build strong egos and strong expectations. And when the expectations are not met, people don't treat the way we are treated. The example of the train journey I shared with all of you. We get angry, we get upset, we get agitated because of wrong attachments. We ruin our lives. People lead lives mourning, grieving, in depression, because they don't understand. Bhagavatam gives 3 examples. Just like when the waves come, the straws which are floating on those waves on the river, they come together for a while. The next wave comes, they all get scattered. This is a reality. We have come together as brothers, sisters, mothers, father. In this life, we have stayed together for some time, and the next wave will come, will get scattered. Just like even in this life, we have vivid memory. We had a batch. We all came together in a school. We studied together. In the 10th, we all got segregated. All went in different colleges. Then in the engineering college or our graduation, we all came together. We had a batch of students together studying, and then after graduation again we got segregated. That's how we have reunions. People enjoy that. Somebody is in Singapore, somebody is in America, somebody is someplace. They all come together, enjoy, and remember those memories, old memories, how we studied, how we stayed, how we used to eat. Recently we had a 25-year reunion, and people were giving all vivid details about the way we used to study, the way we used to attend the classes, the way we used to bunk the classes. So this life is like a drama. This body is not our eternal body. We are not eternally a man, not eternally with how much of gusto, with so much of emotions we invest, thinking that I am an Indian. Yes, Indian. This life I've got a body in India, but Atma is not Indian. Atma is not man. This is the meaning of self-realization, where a person understands who he truly is. If we have mistaken identity, then we have a wrong purpose, we have wrong desires, and resultant wrong actions. So that's the first application. Second thing is, just like I shared the example of the train journey, this life is also a journey. We started this journey and we will end this journey. We'll have to deboard and we'll have to continue on. Just like in a journey, when you're traveling in a train, you don't over endeavor to decorate the train bogie and to make the whole thing very comfortable. Even if there is some inconvenience, you take it in stride, knowing that the journey is going to end, I have to deboard. Suppose the seat is not this thing, you make whatever is required for that duration, and then you know that we'll have to get down and move on. So likewise, we don't overly get attached to make this body comfortable, our life comfortable. We get focused on the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. We are completely focused on the main thing. We don't get defocused. That's the second learning. We don't get so defocused that we start decorating the bogie, start making this bogie comfortable, this journey comfortable, forgetting why we are traveling. What is the purpose of that travel? Where we have to get down. So these two applications, if we have, that I am a spirit soul, this body is like a journey, and while I am traveling, I am playing different roles. Just like in a drama, I am playing different roles. These are not my real identity. My real identity is I am Amsha of the Lord, I am servant of the Lord. That's my true identity. Jivera Swarupa hoy nityera Krishna das. If we remember that identity, then we can go about leading a meaningful life. So we'll take up some questions. We've got many questions today. This question is from Sai Kumar. How to control the mind while chanting? It's a very big subject. I would strongly recommend all the devotees to go through a video series which is there on the YouTube called the Soulful Japa. You will get many wonderful insights how to go about improving your japa. We were not to remember our previous life. How do we ensure guaranteed human birth in next life? This question is from Anil Bhargava. Guaranteed way, swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhyat. Even if small amount of devotional service we do, then it can save us from greatest danger. The greatest danger is that we can glide back to animal species and lose this opportunity of getting a human birth. So if we have rendered devotional service, even if we have not completed, we get again an opportunity to be born as a human being and continue from where we have left in this life. This question is from Devansh More. Is astrology in any way related to our past life? If yes, it is related to how many previous lives? Frankly speaking, yes, astrology, it's a Vedic science. It has to do with the previous life. It can, good astrologer can do all those calculations and give us good understanding of past and future. But unfortunately, not many qualified astrologers are there in present times. Prabhupada also says, yes, astrologer can talk about our previous life or past life, can do all those calculations, but cannot change. We can easily change our future, our destiny, by surrendering to the Lord, by serving the Lord, by chanting the holy names of the Lord. So when we get into some problems, rather than finding out and consulting an astrologer, best would be, how can I surrender to the Lord more and more? Makchitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarishasi. Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, by my grace you will cross over all obstacles of conditional life. So rather than finding solace going to an astrologer, better would be to surrender to the Lord more and more and depend on Him to cross all obstacles of conditional life. This question is from Lahari. Prabhuji, if a person is spiritually inclined from his childhood, does it mean that he was a devotee in his previous life? Yes, it's a very good indication that he was a devotee in his previous life and is continuing from where he left in his previous life. This question, in fact, it's there in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Arjuna asks, what happens to a person who has not completed this path? So Krishna says that he will be taking birth in aristocratic family or the family of pious Brahmanas. He'll automatically get attracted to religious principles and will continue from where he has left in the previous life. This question is from Yash Gangani. As you said, in past, Varna was followed strictly, Varnashrama. So how nowadays we can follow it strictly? May one follow a Shudra Varna job in a company, but how to follow Brahmachari or Grahastha Ashrama? In today's world, as we rightly said, it's Kali Yuga and things are quite topsy-turvy. Even strictly following Varnashrama is very difficult. We don't have that understanding of Brahmacharya training, then Grahastha Ashrama, then Vanaprastha Ashrama and all that. In fact, it is predicted that as time progresses, Kali Yuga, more and more things will get degraded. That's why it said Kaler Dosha Nidhe Rajan. It's an ocean of faults. But Asti Eko Mahad Guna. This is being spoken to Shukadev Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj when he is describing what's going to happen in Kali Yuga. Kaler Dosha Nidhe Rajan. O Rajan, O king, it's an ocean of faults. But there is one good quality. What is that? Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramvrjed. That's why it is said, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Hi Kevalam. In this age specifically, when we chant the names of the Lord who has descended in the form of His name, He will guide us. He will take us to the right devotee. He will take us to the right spiritual master. He will Chaitya Guru. He is Guru in our heart as Paramatma, and He will guide us to an external Guru and will lead our way. All we have to do is sincerely chant the names of the Lord. Associate with the Lord who has descended in the form of His name, and automatically all auspiciousness, all good fortune will begin. This question is from Archie. At the time of death, if one remembers Krishna or take his name, does he attain Lord abode? Speaking of Gandhiji, did uttering Hey Ram take him to the abode of Lord Rama and cease samsara? First, there are two questions. First, if one remembers Krishna or takes his name, does he attain Lord's abode? Yes. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajti ante kalevaram. Whatever the state of mind, whatever a person thinks at the point of death, this is first principle which Krishna talks about. And the second principle is karmana daiva netrena jantur deha utpatyate. Karmana daiva netrena. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, Prabhupada, what if a devotee has tried to remember you throughout a life, but somehow at the point of death, he does not remember, he forgets to remember? Who knows, a devotee is in extreme pain, agony because of some bodily disease, or who knows, a devotee dies in a plane crash or an accident, suddenly the whole body is smashed, crushed. How does a person remember? So it's not a gamble. Even an exam, in one sense, it's a gamble. You may not study throughout the year, but somehow you can do well in exam. There are people who do that. They can figure out what kind of questions will be set and what kind of questions from which chapter will come. They do only those chapters and somehow clear the exams. But here it's not a gamble. The Lord is witness to all our activities. So Prabhupada says, even if we don't remember the Lord, if we have cultivated remembrance of the Lord, if we have engaged in activities trying to cultivate our remembrance, the Lord gives us the credit. Even if we do not remember the Lord will remember such a devotee. Karmana daiva netrena, the Lord sees, He is witness to all our activities. Whether Gandhi uttered, where did he go? The Lord knows. Daiva netrena. What kind of activities he indulged in? What was his consciousness? What was his attachment? Whom was he attached to? How much purification of his desire has happened? Yes, we can apply those principles, but finally, who knows? The Lord knows. Karmana daiva netrena jantur deha utpatyate. A person will get the next body. If a person utters this holy name of the Lord, remembers the Lord, yes, there's a good possibility he will enter the abode of the Lord. But finally, who knows whether he'll enter or not? For sure, the Lord knows. Because He just knows everything about the devotee. He is antaryami, He is the witness. He knows what kind of activities he has involved himself in throughout his life, and based on that, He will give the result. This question is from Pranjal Jain. So how to live the life? Live the life in consciousness of the Lord, developing right kind of attachment. Right now we are attached to so many things, so many people, so many situations, so many circumstances. We should desire that our attachment should be reposed on the Lord. We get attached to the Lord. we develop our loving propensity is invested on the Lord. This question is from Shrabani Mukherjee. When a son behaves badly with his parents, he is accumulating bad karma. This much I understand, but why the parents are getting this when they have done everything for their children? Please explain. Although it may look little harsh, yes, parents invest a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings to raise their children, and yes, it may be sometimes very love, in the sense unconditional love which the parents shower, but in spite of that sometimes children don't reciprocate. So everyone, as you sow, so shall you reap. Every one of us is getting what is due to us. If we are being treated badly, maybe in this life we don't remember that we have done some mistake, but in some life we have done something basis which we are getting what is due to us. That's why Bhagavatam we talked about in the last, why this is happening to me, the last session. If someone of us were not there, you can probably see that session, that video. Why this is happening to me? Everyone is getting what is due to us. So that's why Bhagavatam says a devotee does not complain. Tatya anukampam susmikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. It's my doing. I take the responsibility. As a matter of duty, I will do what is to be done. I have to speak to the son, I have to tell him this is not fair. But in spite of doing all that, finally, everything is not in my control. And what does the devotee think? It's my doing. And while he thinks like that, what does he engage himself? Does he just reconcile to his fate, gets depressed, demoralized? No. He knows it's my doing, my past karmic reactions are unfolding in this way, and he does proactively those things which will burn to ashes those reactions. And Hridvag vapubhir vidadan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadhayabha. He engages in the service of the Lord by what? By his heart, with his mind, with his words, with his actions. And such a person is rightful heir to liberation. This question is from Aryan Jain. It is said that one who are great devotees of the Lord get to take birth during this lifetime or to interact with him. Then why Duryodhan like people too got to see Krishna and talk to him? It's a good question. Duryodhan got an opportunity to see Krishna and talk to him. Unfortunately, he could not recognize and realize that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. That's why seeing the Lord is not as important as having the right understanding of the Lord. A lot of people in the battle of Kurukshetra saw the Lord, but not many could fathom or understand that He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why if we have to understand God more than seeing, we have to use our sense of hearing. Shravanam, hear about the Lord, understand about the Lord. Satsanga, associate with great devotees. Many people saw the Lord, but they could not realize, they could not understand that He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So more than seeing, it is hearing which we have to focus on. And that is what Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is all about. To give us the right understanding of the Lord. Prabhupada also says, do not try to see God, but act in a way that Lord sees you. This last question from Devansh More. How difficult is Anta Narayana Smriti? Because when a soul departs, the pain is equivalent to 42,000 scorpion bites. Then how to ensure that we think of Lord Krishna while departing and go to Goloka? So Prabhupada gives an example of cat carrying a kitten and cat carrying a mouse in the mouth. In the same mouth is experiencing death, and the kitten is experiencing the love of mother's affection. So when a devotee is at the point of death, because of his attachment to the Lord, because of his love for the Lord, because of his dependence on the Lord, which was exemplified by Srila Prabhupada, practically demonstrated, he is, externally it may appear the body, just like the ocean, externally there is a lot of turbulence, but deep within the ocean is silent. So bodily, yes, soul is different from the body. Bodily, maybe there will be a lot of turbulence, a lot of pain, but the soul who has developed attachment and love for the Lord, that soul will experience deep peace from within because of his dependence on the Lord. It's exactly like the kitten experiencing mother's love in the same mouth. From a distance you see it's the same predicament. Both are in the same mouth. Next moment the mouse can be crushed to death. But the kitten in the same mouth is experiencing love of mother. Likewise, a devotee also at the point of death experiences the Lord's love, reciprocation, which was demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada right till the last moment. He was completely in Krishna consciousness, although physically there was a lot of pain in the body. His statement was, everything is happening as per the wish of the Lord. He is dictating Bhakti Vedanta purports till the last moment. So which shows that it is possible to be completely at peace, even though physically we are going through a lot of pain. So thank you very much for joining us. It was nice to have all of you with us today. Look forward to having you again next Sunday, same time. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada.